We're going to close with a final question and let these guys sort of give you their closing argument. And instead of me asking it, we've got a common friend who couldn't be here tonight. And he's a graduate of USC, and he actually had the chance to work at the Harlem Children's Zone and meet Mr. Druckenmiller. So could you please play our question from our good friend in Colombia?
Hi, Jeff and Stan. It's Raphael. I'm sorry I can't be there today to welcome you to USC, but I know my fellow Trojans are there in force. Working with you at the Harlem Children's Zone was a privilege, and nothing short of inspiring. I experienced firsthand what it looks like to help thousands of people in an effort to end the cycle of generational poverty. And those experiences, lessons, and friendships will be with me forever. I'm deeply grateful for the work that you both do and for being incredible role models to me. Philanthropy is the driving force in my life, and I am determined to create pattern-breaking change in inequitable systems, especially education. Your work and inherent goodness reassure me that my ambitions are possible and motivate me to never give up. My question for both of you is, how can my generation bring change to Washington when they hate it? Millennials tend to have an outsized sense of purpose. We're eager to serve and to change the world, but are increasingly negative about the political process. There's a consensus that politics is a circus and rarely produces any tangible results. Besides voting for candidates that support our issues, what do you believe we can do to reverse this trend and get more of us involved when the disengagement is this deep?
Besides just voting, what else can we do? What else can they do to change this?
Everywhere I've gone on this tour, I've gotten asked this question. And to tell you the truth, I can't give you the specifics. What I know is this. I mentioned earlier, David, you asked me why I'm here. I'm here because I see a big, big problem down the road. That's how I've made my living, is identifying problems down the road. This is about the most obvious and easiest one I've seen throughout my whole career, and your generation is at risk. And my generation took down a president when he was doing the wrong thing toward us in the Vietnam War. We didn't have Facebook, we didn't have Twitter, we didn't have Tumblr, we didn't have all this social media. Now, there's 70 million young people out there. I don't know the mechanism. If I did, I'd make it go viral myself. I don't know the specific answer of how to implement that. What I do know is you can get it done, because let's just look at the last election. I don't think there is any group out there more responsible for getting Barack Obama elected. And look at the key voting issues. One of them was gay rights, and we have gay marriage, the barriers breaking down throughout the country. The other one is the environment, and now you see all the new rules with the e-pay and so forth being implemented. To me, those are very important issues, but you got to put this on your priority list. I'm all for gay rights, but I'll tell you, your gay friends are not going to have jobs in 20 years if you don't deal with this issue. So I implore you, there's 70 million of you, you have the power, you're getting your butt kicked by the AARP, you're just sitting by idly while they take advantage of you. And I don't want to get into the specifics. You're going to know that better than me. I've given up on Washington. I make a lot of money. You'd think I have political access. I can't move Washington on this because their job is to get reelected, and they know old people vote and you don't. So it has to be up to you. That's why I'm going around the country trying to get you guys stirred up so you'll act, and I implore you to act. I really appreciate your coming out tonight, and thank you.
So before I give you the closing point, Mr. Canada, look, this is going to be a fight. And like you said, not only do older people vote more regularly and more issue specifically than young people, but they also have power that that this generation doesn't. So, in terms of lobbyists and influence in Washington, there's not a counterbalance for the young people of America. So you're going to this fight, and everyone maybe been to a schoolyard fight, and when you go to a fight, it's important that you have people behind you that have your back. If you're going to fight a bully, you need people. So are you someone that they can count on if they need something?
Yes, I am, and that's why I'm here. My dream is that somebody in one of these presentations we do, Can Kick Back is working on the problem, someone out there comes up with a solution. And when I say solution, not to the problem, to the political thing. And my instincts, it's a social media, but I'm a 60-year-old washed-up money manager. I don't have the answer to that question. I know the problem. I've explained the problem to them. They have to do it themselves because Washington is not going to do it. But I disagree with you. They have a lot of power. They have 70 million votes. And again, we've seen them influence other things. My own answer to that one question is there's just ignorance. And by the way, I think your grandparents, I don't think it's greed. I don't think they don't know these numbers. I think 90% of grandparents, if they knew these numbers, would be willing to contribute to the solution. I really do.
Good point. Mr. Canna, what can they do, and why does this have to change now?
Well, let me tell you one of the things that I find inspiring. Stan and I grew up in a time that our country was so polarized around issues of race that there was literally a war going on in America. It was not unusual to see pictures of people being beaten and dogs being set on people, fire hoses. We were both young when they blew up those little girls in that church just because they happened to be black. So we've seen a country that has gone through a really radical transformation. This country is not what it was. And when I look out at the audience and who the new America is, I see a totally different group of folks. I see people sort of unfettered by all of that baggage from my generation. And the case we're making today is not that we want to take anything from seniors. And it's really not. It's not, it sounds like maybe we want to take away their Medicaid or take away their Social Security. That is not what we're saying. We are talking about modest reforms that will bring equity to the generations. And so I believe, like Stan says, that this generation has the tools that were not available to us in the 60s, to actually bring this movement forward. The thing that you're going to find is that you are going to hear about this. You're going to hear nothing but budget debates and arguments from both sides, and you will see why Stan and I have said the Republicans are terrible, the Democrats are terrible. This is something that no one is going to solve for you if you don't do it for yourself. But I feel like this generation is totally up to that. I will tell you, a very small number, Stan and myself and a handful of folk, decided that we were going to put a stake in the ground and try and figure out how we were going to end generational poverty in a community, one of the most distressed communities in this country. It takes action, and it takes sometimes strange bedfellows to get together to make things work in this country. But the great thing about this country is that individuals have a lot more power and influence than they think. And we have, I think, the most creative generation that's ever been on the face of the earth when we look at the brilliance of this generation. So I am hopeful that you all will solve this, and if you don't, I will blame you, and I will accuse you, and I will talk bad about this generation for years to come. I really think that this is something that we're committed to. We have no stake in this at all. This is not something that Stan and I have some ulterior motive around. This is really about what we think is good for this country. I will just end on this. There have been 2 other times that Stan has shown me charts like the ones you've seen here today. Both times, they predicted a future almost to the month of what would happen. The second time he did it, it was around the mortgage crisis. And this was a year before this crisis ever hit. And he predicted to the month when this thing was going to fall apart. So here I am, a non-financial guy, looking at charts, just the same way you look at them, and saying, but Stan, if this is true, then starting in the fall, this whole thing is going to fall apart. And he said, yes, and we went to Washington. He and I, we went to Washington and we made the case to try and save this country, and no one would listen. And we almost watched America destroyed. And it wasn't for lack of information or knowledge. It was that people wouldn't act. So this time we said we can't trust Washington. We have to go to the people who are going to be directly impacted by this and make our case to them, and trust that in the end they're going to act and they're going to do the right thing to save America. So that's why we're here, and we wish you Godspeed.